The New York Jets and general manager Joe Douglas are in the midst of free agency and prepping for the NFL draft, but there's another avenue that the New York Jets could consider. True, they have signed some key pieces along rebuilding their dilapidated offensive line, but there's another source of players that no one's talking about, and that is the XFL. True, the XFL season is over now, and though the league will be coming back in 2021, they are now free to have their players sign NFL contracts. With that in mind, here are 5 players that the New York Jets should consider signing from the XFL. Number 5, Deatrick Nichols, the cornerback from the Roughnecks. At only 25 years old and at 5'10", he was tied for third in the league with passes defense. Now, Nichols has bounced around a little bit, but he's a tall corner that can play a lot of press man, and in the style defense that the Roughnecks played, he was the featured cornerback and always shadowed the team's #1 receiver. This is the type of corner that Greg Williams is looking for, tall enough to play on the outside and physical enough to play man-to-man coverage, and giving the Jets' lack of depth in the cornerback position over the last 2 years, and especially now after releasing Trumaine Johnson, bringing Nichols in to compete for a roster spot seems like a very smart idea, especially because this could be a guy that could be a good contributor on the special teams as well as a gunner, along with being a solid cornerback option. At number 4, Cam Phillips, the wide receiver for the Roughnecks. He was the most productive wide receiver in the entire league with 31 catches, 455 yards, and a league-leading 9 touchdowns. Now, if people look back at his 40-yard dash time at 4.8, it's not exactly impressive. But one of the things is, even though he's not a typical burner, he's a very good route runner and a guy who just shows up every game and plays his butt off. This was a guy that came out and competed every single week and proved that he could be a dynamic playmaker. While he might not be a guy that could stretch a defense or be a burner over the top, this could be a valuable wide receiver, especially for Sam Darnold's development, and a guy who could fit nicely into one of those 3 or 4 wide receiver. Let's not forget that the Jets' depth chart isn't exactly great right now. Even though they could draft a wide receiver in the draft, they did not re-sign Robbie Anderson as of this taping. And, of course, they do not have Quincy Enunwa, who is also hinting that he may retire. So getting another capable wide receiver, especially that one that could help Sam Darnold's development, just makes a whole lot of sense. Number 3, Martez Ivey, the offensive tackle from the Vipers. Now, Joe Douglas has made it clear that the offensive line is his #1 priority. I mean, if you've watched the Jets free agency, that has been the focal point. But even so, there is still work to be done. On the offensive line that led the league with 828 rushing yards was Martez Ivey. At only 24 years old, he's proving himself as one of the best offensive linemen in the XFL. Now, Ivey was a highly touted prospect coming out of Florida, but failed to live up to the hype coming out of the draft. Ivey did have a very good season and proved that he could be a very good run blocker. And let's not forget, this was a highly recruited kid, and he has all the tools to be an effective offensive lineman in the league. And at only 24 years old, this could be an intriguing prospect for the Jets because he could be a good project to develop down the road, but also could come in right away and be a good plug-and-play guy at potentially right tackle, but at the very least, a swingable backup that could play multiple positions. Speaking of offensive line, number 2, Storm Norton, the offensive tackle for the Wildcats. Now, apart from having arguably the greatest name in the XFL, Storm Norton really developed into one of the best offensive tackles in the entire league and was the first pick available when offensive linemen were selected in the XFL draft to go, and he lived up to the hype, protecting Josh Johnson's blindside in one of the league's most surprising offenses. Now, he has the frame at 6'8" and 317 pounds to be an effective lineman at the next level, and he proved to be one of the most dominant linemen in the entire league. With the Jets looking to do their best to stock up on talented offensive linemen, it only makes sense to give Storm Norton an opportunity because he's still a developing young player that is showing that he has a lot of upside, especially after a strong performance protecting the blind side in the XFL. This is a very talented kid and arguably one of the more talented overall players in the entire XFL, and the Jets should give him an opportunity to at least compete and be a rotational offensive tackle along this offensive lineman. Who knows, if he surprises in camp, he could be a dark horse starter at left tackle or guard, especially because he's playing so well. And number 1, Donald Parham, the tight end for the Renegades. Now, this is a prospect I would love to see the Jets get. Only 22 years old, he led tight ends with 24 catches and 4 touchdowns. And at 6'8", he was a dominant player and at times uncoverable, especially given that height. Can you imagine him being a red zone target for Sam Darnold? This would make too much sense for a lot of reasons. First, this isn't a highly deep draft in terms of tight end position, and the Jets could maybe get a guy late in the draft, but probably not of Parham's stature. Number two, the Jets are falling out of love potentially with their tight end Chris Herndon. Don't forget he was drafted by the last regime and missed the entire season with a suspension and injury, so he might be falling out of favor with this coaching staff and with this new regime. So with Darnold's development in question, what would be better than giving him a dominant red zone tight end like Parham and giving him a guy he could develop with over the next couple of years and giving a good tandem of Ryan Griffin and potentially Donald Parham over the middle? This could be a very good signing for the Jets and a highly productive player that could be available and arguably is one of the better options at tight end. There's an incredible amount of upside with this young prospect, but the biggest thing is he would be a great guy to have to help with Sam Darnold's development, and that is what everything this offseason for the Jets should be about. And that's our list. Do you agree? Make sure to write in the comments below who you would like to see the Jets go after from the XFL in their free agency, and do you like what Joe Douglas is doing so far? Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our latest New York Jets content, including another brand new 7-round mock draft that is coming out shortly. I guarantee you, you're not going to want to miss that. We're your home for all NFL draft content, and of course, content about the New York Jets. This is Rich Sports Talk, and until next time, I'm Nolan Rich. Thank you so much for joining us.